Hello, my good friends. It's Twinkle and we are here yet again with Technomancer. But this episode's going to be a little special because of where we find ourselves. We just finished Chapter 1, and we just had access to Chapter two's market, so we could start in Chapter two's new upgrade system, so we can have the next tier of upgrades. We have all the items that we just found, and we have 3 new companions, 4 if you count Nisha. Which you may or may not. So, I thought I would make a little mini episode just kind of talking about the companions in detail, talking about the different weapons, why we went with the build that we're going with, and where the direction of the game is going in the future. So, the cool thing about this is that if you're not interested in any of that, feel free to skip this video and go on to the next. I'll bring up some of the details that I'm going to talk about here briefly at the beginning, and then I'm just going to move on and do some more questing. But this way, for the people that are interested in why I'm doing certain things the way I am, or what I feel about like the way how certain things are, I decided just to make this video separate so I could talk about that and not bog it down with a bunch of detail for people that aren't interested in it. So, let's talk about the different companions. As you can see, I have swapped out my armor, and I will go through the different upgrades and the different things that I have people equipped with and how I plan to use these different allies. So let's start with Scott. So Scott is kind of shitty, unfortunately, and you've seen him. He's been in our combat. We've used him for the pretty much as we're going to use him. His big bonus is this bonus to science, but you don't really use science that much anyway. We'll have a few missions with him where we'll have him tag along for story reasons, and he's still going to be really relevant as far as the story goes, but we're not going to use him for combat, period. Like, if we're ever taking him, it's because we're taking him for a story, and that's only going to be a handful of times. So, I'm totally happy with where Scott's equipment is. Now, Phobos is actually, I think, honestly, right now, he's our strongest companion. Once we do a little side questing, we're going to be able to get Andrew boosted, and I don't want to spoil it too much. His foot's broken there, but we're going to actually be able to power Andrew up and give him access to things that he doesn't have. But for now, Phobos is actually our strongest guy, and then when Andrew gets powered up, he'll be our second strongest. And he uses the moveset from the big heavy guys that can knock you down, and that's why he's so powerful. And he just does a lot of damage, and he can take a lot of hits. As far as his items go, we're going to let him borrow the full Void Jacket, but once we get his strength up to level 2, which won't take very long at all, we're going to switch him to this Light Soldier's Breastplate. And also, I haven't upgraded his weapon yet, because eventually I'm going to buy a new one and upgrade that. So this is just his default until he gets that. As far as Phobos goes, we're going to make extensive use of him in the second chapter, and then we're going to have him for about like the first chunk of the third chapter, and then we're going to lose him to a story reason. You can hold on to him, but to get the ending that I want to get, we have to give him up. So we'll make use of him while we have him, and we're going to love using him while we do, but he's not going to be our end game companion guy. Now, Andrew here is very interesting. So if you look at his stats, he actually is... he has power, and that's because of his background as a Technomancer. And as we level him up, his power is going to keep going up more than anything else. So he actually gives us a lot of really cool benefits. He gives us passive fluid regeneration, which means we can cast more spells. And he gives us charisma. Now you're saying, why is charisma important? Well, when you look at charisma past the first level that allows us to haggle with merchants, it actually gives our allies passive bonuses, which is awesome. It's really, really awesome. So he's like the best combat companion. Right now, he can't really do... right now, his moveset is that of like a downgraded Nisha. Like he'll do the dodges and the swings like Nisha does with her dagger, but obviously he doesn't have an arm, so he can't shoot at all. I've given him our old Technomancer jacket because his power qualifies him to wear it. I might swap back and take it back. I'm not sure. The problem with the Technomancer jacket is it has low resistance. And the physical resistance is going to become more and more relevant as we continue further and further on, and we can get hit harder and harder. So We may let him keep it. We might put something else on there. I'm not sure. But for now, I'm satisfied with what he's got. We're not going to bother upgrading his club because, yeah, you'll see why later. And once we, like I said, we can do some story elements with him that will upgrade his capacity and what he can do. And once he gets to that part where he's unlocked his full potential, he is the strongest companion by far. And he is someone that we're going to want in our party, like, all the time, just because he's heads and tails above everyone else, and for the charisma bonus, and for the fluid regeneration. Like, he's a no-brainer. He's definitely an excellent person. And, you know, like, the charisma bonus that it gives you helps you make these charisma checks without having to put points into it. You can just put your jacket on, it's like, bam, you already have it maxed out. Now, Nisha is in an awkward position right now. Now, Nisha, as I said, she has the moveset of the agile people that we fought that can jump out of the way. She can pull out her gun and shoot him once, or she can swing with her dagger, and she's got that venom throw ability. So she's an okay combatant compared with all the other companions. You put Andrew on top, and then you put Phobos on second. She's like a good solid third. So she's not great, but she's not bad either. Unfortunately, I kind of ran out of equipment to give her, so she's using we haven't upgraded her what she's using, really. She's using hand-me-downs. Her armor is good. Like, I'm very satisfied with all of their legs and their boot slots. Her disruptor gun is a really good fit for her, too. I gave her the hand-me-down dagger that I was using before, even though it's using crit, which isn't really that... I mean, she's got good agility, so it backs it up, but I don't know if NPCs can crit. Hopefully they can. Otherwise, you know, it's basically just like a dagger that we gave her, which, whatever. And her torso, this isn't going to cut it in the long run, but I don't have anything better to give her. So hopefully we'll find something that we can put on her. Or we can give her the jacket that we're wearing now once we find something better for us. To offset that, I gave her Jeffrey's helmet. So that way she's got a little bit more resistance to electricity and physical resistance while we figure out what to get her. We're not going to be using her immediately right now because we need to get our other companions in combat and level them up that way. And then hopefully in the process of doing that, we'll find better armor to put on her and maybe a better melee weapon. For Amelia, I'm actually very satisfied with the way her equipment is right now. As far as armor goes, she's wearing the full abundant soldier uniform that I've maxed out with defensive upgrades. So, important to note, if you want just flat out resistance, your full abundance uniform, if you can get your hands on it, is a great way to go. Because you can get it to 19. It gives you really solid resistance to disruption. It's a great choice, and it doesn't have any requirements. Where if you went for the strength route, you're going to get this light soldier's breastplate no matter what, and the highest it goes is 18, and it gives you a little bit more resistance to disruption, but the benefit of this is that it's guaranteed. So if you want to make sure that you get something, and you don't want to have to farm out items or get lucky like what I've been doing, go a strength build, and you'll be able to use this just fine. And then the other armor, since we're talking about that, is the full ASC spy jacket, that's the agility route. It has one less armor than what the full abundance uniform does, and it doesn't have as much resistance to disruption, but it gives you resistance to electricity, which will be relevant. It doesn't come up much, but when it does come up, you'll be glad you have it. But honestly, the difference between the three armor sets is so minute that really, if you can go any of the three routes, you'll be totally fine. Like, any of these will do the job for you. So anyway, back to Amelia. She starts off really weak, but then as she levels up, she's going to get a lot of strength. And as she gets more strength, we're going to be upgrading her maces and her shields that we've been able to find for her. But right now she only has a strength of 1, so I've already given her the best that she can get. And her moveset, she's exactly like Dave. And we didn't use Dave very much because he sucks, and she kind of sucks too. She'll normally just walk around. She uses the shield moveset, if you've seen those guys. And she works exactly the same way. Sometimes she'll get lucky, and she'll put her shield up, and she'll be able to defend herself and live through things other companions would just like flat out die from. And other times she'll just get stun locked and die like we've done to other shield people. So she's really inconsistent. I would say that as far as combat effectiveness, she's below Nisha. But I keep saying, you know, we got to make sure she likes us. And the reason is because if you look at her passive benefit, she gives us crafting. Like, that's pretty huge. We really, really want her to like us just for that, so that way we can get that extra crafting bonus without having to put a point into it. And then we can get access to level 3 crafting in Chapter 3 and have total freedom with what we do with our points. Another benefit, I didn't talk about this, Phobos' bonus is exploration, which we don't care about. He gives us a 250 weight bonus, which means we can carry like a whole bunch of extra shit. If you're doing good inventory management, it shouldn't really matter. Obviously, Nisha helps out a lot with her physical damage to daggers. So every time we're hitting, we're doing a little bit more. And the traps and lock picking, that just makes it so we can access level 3 chests, which will be relevant. But we may decide just to say, you know, like, screw it, whatever, and we'll put the point, our own point, into lock picking so we don't have to drag her with us. But if we wanted to, we could. It's looking like our companions are going to be comprised of Chapter 2 of, you know, we're going to be relying a lot on Phobos and Andrew once he gets powered up. And then once we lose Phobos, we're probably going to be relying on Nisha. We may need to get Amelia in a few situations. But as far as her armor goes, I'm very satisfied with it. We just need to get her some experience, get her fighting so she can get her strength up, and we can get her better equipment. Now, for ourselves, we gave the Technomancer jacket to Andrew, so we have the full ASC Spy jacket. It gives us these suite of passive benefits that I've talked about here. We also have the targeting goggles that I bought earlier. I haven't swapped out the gun yet because we don't have access to one. In order to find another gun with cooldown speed on it that's 50 or better, we have to get it as a drop from the enemies. Otherwise, we're stuck with this for the rest of the chapter, which is fine if you are. It just doesn't do as much damage, so keep your eye out for it, and I'll talk about that when it comes up. For our knife, we just put all our points and all our mods into critical hit, and so now we combined with our agility, we have almost a 40% chance every time we swing to crit, which is really, really good. Like, individual crits don't do a lot, but combined, we can definitely put some hurt on people. We're keeping the Technomancer pants for the fluid regeneration, and we're keeping the ASC gear. So, we've talked about the different characters that we're going to do, what we're going to do with them. Now let's talk about the build and what we're doing and why we're doing it and why we're not doing certain things. So, first, I want to talk about why we're not using the shield or why we're not using the staff. So I talked about this a little bit at the beginning, but I didn't really go in depth about it. The shield, the reason we're not using the shield is because it's really strong at fighting enemies one-on-one. Because you got, you know, you can just pull out your shield and block with it. But you've got all the tools that you need to fight people one-on-one with it right at the get-go. Any more points that you put into it is just going to make it stronger at fighting people one-on-one. But the big gaping problem with this is that the stance does not do well against multiple enemies. The only thing you can do is perfectly time, like Bayonetta style, your guard, so that way you'll do a parry, which gives you invulnerability frames and lets you do a counterattack that knocks them back. Now, as you can tell, the big reason why can't you just do it is because you need to have the reflexes of Spider-Man in order to perfectly parry every single attack that comes your way. And it just makes the game a whole lot harder than I think it has to be. So, when we use the shield and stick, I guess, we'll be using it because that's the right one to use against that target at that time. You'll actually find that there's a lot of attacks that are coming up that you think we'd be able to block, but we can't. And the only way to avoid damage with the sword and shield is to basically do a perfect guard. Whereas with the other two stances, you could have just jumped out of the way. And so that's why we're not putting points into that, because quite frankly, it already does what we need it to do, and any more points put into there are wasted. So, right, all three of the weapon stances have like a trance ability that you use that it lasts for a couple seconds and it gives you a buff. The one for the sword, well, the stick and the sword, is the weakest, because it says it increases your resistance and your resistance to disruption, but it only does it by just like a tiny little bit. It's not like you can pop this and just get wailed on. You can't. Like, it gives you a barely noticeable increase of defense, so it's kind of worthless. Now, the cool thing about the sword, I keep saying sword, the stick and the shield stance, is that it does the most damage just like flat out, and that's something that it's good at. If you decide to invest in it, you'll be able to just like rock people with all the damage that you can do just by left clicking. And its ability is powerful attack, and what this does is it reduces their armor, so they take even more damage from your attacks. And basically all you're going to be doing is attack, shield slam to disrupt them, attack, shield slam, and then whenever you see an attack, just blocking, and that's going to be your entire gameplay. Investing in the stick and sword stance doesn't give you access to anything else. It's not fancy. It's just very straightforward. And I honestly think it's like you have a tool, you have a hammer. Instead of expanding your repertoire of skills and tools so you can deal with different situations, all you're doing is reinforcing that hammer. And obviously, a hammer is good when you have a nail that you need to hit in, or a nail that you need to take out, but it's not the tool to use in every situation. Like, you're not going to use a hammer to cook an egg, or to bind a wound, or to help you study for a test. And if you invest in sword and shield, stick and sword, that's what you're doing, is you're forced to use this obtuse stance to deal with every problem, or rely on other stances and make yourself overall weaker because you can't deal with most of the situations that you're going to need to deal with sword and stick. Because I don't know if you noticed, but the majority of enemies that you fight are not single strong guys. They are people in groups, which is what this thing is the weakest at. Now, to talk about the staff, and the reason why we're not using the staff is because, quite frankly, it has a different kind of problem. Now, you can do the same kind of pattern with this, where you right-click to stun them, and then you wail on them while they're stunned, and then you just keep repeating over and over. And instead of a block, you have a dodge, so you can use to get out of the way much quicker, much more effective, in my opinion, than the shield block. But the problem is that the dodge is actually slower than that of the dagger, and you don't have the range on the attacks are not that good. The staff is actually all about passives and crowd disruption. So it's very, very easy to basically you need to stack a whole bunch of passives in order to make the staff work. And like, even with crafting, if you look at most things, they'll have 2 crafting slots or 1. The staff has got 3, and that's for a reason. It's because they want you to stack either all damage, all disruption, or all critical, the way to fit it the way how you want to fit it. And that's how using the staff is. If you look at the tree for staff, it is all about like increasing the area, giving you resistance to other attacks that'll disrupt you, giving you access to more disruption attacks while you attack. And there's very little active things that you do. Instead, a lot of it is just like you have a higher chance to knock people over, or you have a higher chance to disrupt people, or you attack in a wider area. And basically the idea with this is that you're kind of just ducking in and out with these attacks, hoping one of your passives will land. Like, oh, I disrupted him, that gives me an opening. Or, oh, I knocked him over, that gives me an opening. And what you'll see is, until you've sunk a whole bunch of points into your staff tree, it's very easy for enemies to just parry you, and then while you're attacking one enemy, the other one comes up on the side, flanks you, and hits you, or get you locked in an endless chain of dodging out of the way. So until you get all those points and you really start to, that's when you see the staff shine, is when you heavily invest in it. You're basically fighting with a subpar weapon that's not doing a lot of damage, and it's just getting parried. And while you're attacking one enemy, it gives the other enemies a chance to just to oil your keister and have their way with you. Now, very important though, Tempest. That's what the big defining thing for staff is that its active ability is Tornado. You've seen some of the enemies that we fought use this, where they basically sit in place and they spin to win. This is basically like our lightning storm, except instead of being locked in one spot, you move forward, spinning your staff. And I think you actually do even more damage with a properly upgraded staff. The problem is that, like, obviously it's you spinning in place, so it's very easy for enemies to attack you even though you have a very high disruption rate while you're doing it. And it puts you in danger. But if you set it up correctly, like if you knock someone down with all your passives, it gives you a really, really powerful move to just get in there and destroy everyone that gets in your way. But then you're very open to ranged attacks or people dodging out of the way. So again, you know, it's a very kind of obtuse skill that you want to try to create situations to use it in rather than using it to create situations for yourself. And then the staff stance ability, it is Frenzy, which what that does is you just basically do a lot more damage and you can attack a little faster. You won't notice the speed increase, but it's really good. You pop Frenzy, then you pop Tempest, and you just do a lot of damage. So we're not using staff because I honestly think it's subpar. Even if you invest like all the points into it, I think you're going to see a more powerful character invested in other ways than if you went with staff. And that was what I did with my first playthrough, is I put a lot of points in staff and I was just kind of underwhelmed with it. And the other problem with staff is that it's not straightforward where you put your points. Because really, in order to make staff work, you need to you need strength in order to access the good staffs, but you also need dexterity because you want to get those chances of electrocuting and those chances of knocking down, which are very important with the staff. So you're kind of relying on multiple attributes, which is kind of making you weaker overall as a character. But anyway, that's enough about the staff. So obviously we're using the dagger because of the high mobility that comes with it. We can move around as we please, mold the battlefield, but also because it gives us a really, really powerful ranged kind of stance that we can combine with our lightning bolts. Because these things do a lot of damage, but as you can tell, they take a little bit of time to wind up. And when we're using them, we can't, it's a lot more difficult to find the time, area, and space to launch one of these lightning attacks when we're up close and personal, like we would be with the staff and the stick and shield. It lets us kind of just sit in the back, get shots off, be safe, not commit to anything, and avoid a lot of the damage, because instead of just running in there and hoping that we can pick an enemy off and taking a lot of damage in return, we just hang back, take shots from a safe distance, let our companions soak up some damage, and it's a lot easier and a lot more complementary than the other stances to get off all these lightning bolts and lightning attacks. And as far as the skill tree for it goes, we have invested in the gun line. And we can do a lot more with this. We can increase our damage to their guns. If we keep going, we'll get the ability that if we bayonet a roll at a time just in time, we'll get an automatic critical, which is great. These passives give us even more criticals. We can upgrade our thrust, which makes our poison a lot more powerful. And you might be like, well, the poison's not that big, right? And, well, I mean, the poison itself doesn't have that big of an influence, but what makes it powerful is that if you put your second upgrade in it, you can increase the amount of damage that they take by reducing their armor, which is really powerful. It means any source of physical damage, like your stick attacks or even like with other weapons, you're going to be doing more damage. Explosive shot, we're not really... If we weren't a Technomancer, we would probably pick this up because it's basically like a shotgun blast that you do, but it's not as reliable, and we want to save the heat for just attacking with our normal attacks with our gun, because this uses up heat the same way, just at a much higher rate. And honestly, we can do a lot more damage this way. And then it actually, out of all of the trances, this one is the most useful, because what this does is it slows them down, which makes it easier to attack, and it gives us a 35% chance to dodge, which combined with this, if we have it equipped, we basically every time we can just sit there and swing, and they only have like a 1 in 3 chance of hitting us, which is really, really great. And we can also make it so that way this tree is all about crits, and we can do that. We can pick that second upgrade there that'll make us more crit likely, and like basically just every hit will be a critical hit over and over and over. And a lot of these abilities are all about kind of attacking from behind, and this slows down our enemies and lets us actually position ourselves behind them to take full advantage of it. So we may be picking this up later, but as you can tell, we put most of our points into the Technomancer tree, and we're going to continue to put points in there. The first thing we went for was the magnetic armor side, because it gave us a lot of very needed survivability. We could come back here, and since we're agility based, we can put our points into critical to give us even more critical chance when we're swinging with our dagger. We went here on the second because once we finished the right side, we went for the left side to grab Electric Storm. As you've seen, it's very, very, very powerful attack that we can use to basically set up kills as well as doing a lot of damage because of that knockback. You know, we're probably not going to pick that up, but we can increase the attack damage. And then the next place that we're going to is we're going to pick up Overload, and what that's going to do is it's a flat out increase to all our damage. So you might be thinking like, well, wait, it only is, like, even if you put 2 points into this, you're only going to be doing 40% more. Wouldn't you be better off saving the bar and using it for another lightning bolt? Well, the damage increase also applies to the electric weapons, I believe. So you're getting a big increase with everything, not just the active attacks, but everything. And what we're setting ourselves up for the final boss, we need to have the ability to do lots of damage really quickly. And that's something that sword and stick and shield and staff have over dagger. Dagger has range and mobility, but it can't do as much damage as the other two can. If they have dedicated DPS, just whack and whack and whack. And this will give us Overload plus all the buffs to damage that we're going to get are going to give us the ability to do like a huge upfront Electric Storm that'll do a lot of damage. And, like with all the buffs and all the points that we're going to be putting into it, it's, there's a good chance we'll just be able to flat out just kill someone just from the get-go and just like set the battle in our favor, which will then give us access to that attack that we need to do a lot of damage. And if we kill people with lightning bolts, when we have this skill right here, we'll actually be able to we'll recover energy from the ground that their corpses leave. Their corpses charge the ground that we can roll over, and then we absorb that charge and we get another free lightning bolt off. And if we ever need more juice, we just use one of our mini focus injections that we have here. So the basic idea behind this build was we went for the gun buffs so we could fire off as much as we wanted to, and then we've been putting the rest of our points into our Technomancer tree, and then once that's done, we might come back and put some more points in here. But if you wanted to, like honestly, once you're at this point here and you have everything increased, like this is just that's just 3 points. You could really take that, put 1 point into agility so you can use the gun that we're using, and then like you're set, buddy. Like you could do whatever you want, because that gun will give you so much survivability and so much flexibility that no matter what stance you're using, you have the knowledge, you can always just like roll yourself back, whip out that gun, and just start picking at them with gunshots and electric blasts. And then if you wanted to from there, you could make a shield build, you can make a staff build, you could even go further into dagger, but I highly recommend picking up those 3 points, even if you plan on like almost never using it, because being able to just go like this whenever you want is useful throughout the entire game. And combined with the lightning bolt, it will always give you the kind of backup that you need if you need to sit down and put down some traps. So that's why we're using the dagger and pistol combined with the heavy focus and the Technomancer abilities. And that's where our build is going in the future. Now, and speaking of the future, for the rest of the game, it's going to pretty much go the same way that it did before. The problem with Chapter 1 is that there was a huge blob of side quests that you had to do, like at the beginning, and not much impact behind them. But now that we've taken the time to do them and set ourselves up, except for the Vori quest, we skipped that. But, if you want to get the full... if you want to do every single side quest, you saw where the Vori guy is. You just go talk to him and he'll give you some. We are going to be focusing on getting more, like we're going to have less side quests, but they're going to be more important. and we're going to be combining them with a lot more like spy-like missions for Dandolo. And when we get to Chapter 3, it's actually going to be kind of similar, where we're going to have more important story missions and less like just random side quests, although there will be there. And then Chapter 4 is really brief. So we've gotten over kind of the work, and now we're being able to reap the benefits of all the time and effort that we put in with our builds and with the general gameplay. So that is about everything that I would want to have explained. I need to get a drink of water now. So this has been Twinkle Butt. Thank you for listening to my rant, and I will see you in the next video where we'll actually have some gameplay. Until then, have a wonderful, wonderful day.